got the motor off the stand. The next thing we're going to do is replace this tilt pin bolt. So OMC wants $75 for this bolt. I found this new old stock one on eBay for $20 and $5 shipping. I hated to pay $25 for a bolt, but you never know what alloy that's made out of. And as I pull the old one out, you're going to be able to see it's totally rusted apart to nothing. And I hate to trust the main tilt on the motor to something this bad. So we'll drop the bolt out. So you can see this bolt's all corroded and about half rusted through in places. And then you can also tell by the length of it, the end of it rusted off to where there wasn't any threads gripping on the nut anymore. So we'll replace this tilt pin bolt. But before I do, there's a spring in here. And this spring was totally rusted inside the housing. So I'm going to wire wheel this, put some rust converter on it, and clean that all up. Get the rust converter on, let it set a day. We'll clean inside this pocket for our new bolt. Well, I cleaned out the pocket where the spring goes, and I got 2 coats of primer on the spring and down inside this pocket. So we'll go ahead and put this tilt bolt assembly back together. Alright, well, we got the tilt bolt, and it's like a carriage bolt on this end, and it locks into a safety lanyard ring that goes onto the outboard, and then it's also square in here to where it locks into there. So once we got our bolt in and all the way, we come over to this side, we put our spring over the bolt. Then there's a washer, a stainless washer, and a stainless lock bolt that goes on this end of it. And we'll go ahead and tighten this down now. So that's a lock nut, so I want to tighten it down until I get threads exposed through the edge of the nut. And I got some resistance on swiveling, but not too tight. Once I get it mounted up on a boat, I'll get that all adjusted out. So the next thing I'll do is I'll hustle this monster back up on the motor stand. Part of this refresh will be to go ahead and change both spark plugs. And the old ones don't look bad as far as burn electrodes or anything. I'll save them for spares, something to keep in the box in case a insulator ever breaks on one or something. So we got 2 brand new Champion QL77 JC4s. Got these from John Fro's Hardware, $4.59 a piece, and we gap them to 030. Get them in there and snug them up. All right, both plugs are in and tight. Snap our leads back on. Okay, new plugs in the motor for the fire up. All right, the next part we're going to change out is this twist grip. As you can see, all the old rubber's just coming right off it. So there's 2 little detents you push in to slide this off. The detent on this helix is already broke. Once you get that detent in, there we go. Okay, so your handle comes right off, and then these 2 helix pieces just come right off the top of it. But you got to be careful, because on each side there's a little button right here that we need to make sure we don't drop and lose. One on the top, and the one on the bottom came right off in the helix. And there's also other parts in there that can come out, so you got to be real careful. So this is your throttle, your actual throttle cable slide right here. See, this one helix is broke. So I got brand new parts in the box to be able to replace it. 2 new plastic helixes and the complete handle. So we'll get our idle adjustment piece out of the old handle just by simply screwing it in, dropping it into the new handle, and going counterclockwise till it seats all the way at the top. And there's a little push button cap that goes in the end of it. So that's our new idle adjustment in. What I'm going to do while I got this all apart is I'm going to lube up this cable. Very seldom get the opportunity to lube that up, but both sides of it. Then on the handle here where this helix and these buttons ride, I'm going to smear a bunch of moly grease and grease it all up under here, all on these tracks here and where this handle rides. Try to lube this up a little bit. Take my little button, put a little grease on it to kind of glue it in place. The top one, same thing with my bottom one. Then I'll take my brand new helix pieces. You can see this groove that those buttons ride in, and that's what pulls your cable forward and backward. You got a groove down in here that goes on to the handle. There we go. Okay, got my 2 helix pieces all lined up. We got a indicator, throttle position indicator right here, and you can see we line up the idle speed adjustment, line those up, push them in, and both detents have engaged. Everything's working good, all lubed up, ready to start. So it's that easy. Brand new throttle, helix, and outside handle. Looks a little bit better than the old one there. Mostly a cosmetic part, but I want a good twist grip on it. Get this thing outside, do some wet sanding and get some primer on it. We're almost ready to fire up and run her. Alrighty, masking up the motor, getting ready to put some more primer on it and finally get some paint on her. Okay, we got all our masking done, so now we'll get some primer on a few spots that need it and get some paint on this bad boy. Prime everywhere where there's bare metal. Alright, we got a good coat of self-etching primer on it. I'm going to go ahead and paint it olive color camouflage by Krylon, an ultra flat paint. And we'll see how this does. Got to do all these bottom surfaces first. I'll tilt the motor back down. Usually the first thing people do when they steal a motor is they paint it. So, make it look like a stolen motor. Run it like you stole it. So that's one coat of final olive drab color I'm putting on it. I'll try to put 3 coats on. Okay, we'll wrap up a few detail things now that the paint's dried for a day. So we'll put our anode kit on. We cleaned where the anode makes contact on the lower unit. Get it nice and tight. We got a new anode kit on. We'll put on our trim skag. And once we get it on a boat and running, we'll know exactly how much angle to put into it to torque it. That's an alignment mark right there. I'll just put it in the neutral aligned position. We'll put our water pickup screen in. And it's designed to flow front to the back. Simply screws in. So our water pump screen's in good and tight. Okay, we'll reinstall our kill switch lanyard clips. And we'll have to get a new lanyard, so that's the main one. And there's a room for a spare right here on the motor. Then since we washed this down super good, we cleaned all of our moly grease off of our throttle actuator. So we'll put a little moly grease back on there where the throttle actuator rides. So we'll put a little moly grease down here on the forward neutral reverse detents. Like I said, since we washed this all off. Okay, there's 3 lubrication points for a grease gun. Right here for the hood latch is one. Right here for the shift levers one. And down here on the lower unit. So we'll take a grease gun and we'll pump all 3 of them with grease. You got to remember we washed all this grease out when we did the initial cleaning of the engine. Okay, I got it forcing grease out the top and bottom of the main pivot tube. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is take some blaster silicone lubricant and I'm going to spray down the power head as a preservative. Keep corrosion down. It'll also help lube up some of these mechanisms. Spray my hoses, my wires, flywheel, everything down. Silicone lubricant, like I said, this is just to keep corrosion down. I still need to get 1 or 2 items. As you can see, this main tilt pin is totally corroded up. I'll get one from somewhere. They want about 75, 80 bucks for these. I might just use a big stainless bolt. We're all set up. We got some 50-to-1 premix. We get our ball pumped up. Feels like the carburetor's taking gas. Give it a couple priming strokes. We'll go turn the water on. All right, water's on. Here goes nothing. Let's see where all this money went. We got a pop. Turn the handle to start, that'll help. up the Johnson 25 horse refresh. There's actually a service bulletin on these motors on that low idle speed backfire on the timing. I'll have to fool with that eventually, but it's been running like that for 28 years, no problem. So in this refresh, we did the motor mounts, resealed the lower gear case, water pump, tilt pin bolt, spark plugs, twist grip, a whole bunch of miscellaneous things. So the total came to $375.31. So almost $400 into this refresh. And one of the reasons why I did this, I wanted to show you, if you come across a 15 to 25 horse motor for less than $1,000 and it's got good gear oil, no water in the gear oil, and it's a runner, jump on it. The only bit of advice I have is stay away from saltwater motors. Try to find one that's been running a freshwater lake or up north somewhere. So 25 horse refresh done. The only thing left to do is find a boat to put it on. If any of y'all have any leads on some good flat boats or John boats or little skiffs, get in touch with the channel. Till the next video, get out there and go fishing.